Hey, hey, welcome back to the Laughing My Age Off podcast. This is a podcast where we don't chase youth. We actually redefine it by slowing your aging down with practical tips. And so if you are new to this channel, I don't think it's an accident. We are welcome you in. And if you are coming back for more, I'm so happy you tuned in today because we are going to be talking about one anti-aging tool that's absolutely free. And I know most of you have never even thought about this. All right. So coming to you with some science backed strategies on this great anti aging tool. Let's get into it.
Embark on a journey to defy time with LMAO, Laughing My Age Off podcast. I'm your host, Erica Kelly, and I started this show because, like you, I'm curious about the secrets to staying youthful as the years go by. Join me as we discover the secrets to slowing down the aging process, exploring expert insights, cutting-edge research, and personal experiences that uncover the art of aging gracefully. It's time to laugh, learn, and embrace a life full of vitality together.
Okay, so what is this free tool you're thinking? All right, it's not food, it's not a drink, it's not even fasting. It's actually, are you ready for this? Saying hello to a stranger. Okay. Now, why talking to strangers matters is what we are going to be focusing in on today. And I know this sounds like something, that we have to retrain ourselves because as you were taught from a young age not to talk to strangers. Well, things have changed. As you get older, you can bend the rules a little bit. And for this one, I highly suggest bending the rules. Okay. All right. Now, I just want to take a second. If you're watching this on YouTube, check out I call this the Chiquita banana shirt. All right. So I've been trying to clean out my closet. And you know how you go to your closets and if you're going to try to streamline it, you're like, okay, if I haven't worn it in the last 6 months, I probably shouldn't. But I just can't get this up. So I'm taking a step back here. It's like my Chiquita banana shirt. I love the poofy sleeves. I love this little, collar here. Anyway, so not to get off tangent here, but that's another thing we got to talk about in another episode is cleaning out your closet. And that's a whole other segment. So, why is speaking to strangers such a great way to slow down the aging process? So, research shows, and they say that weak ties. Now, what does weak ties mean? That is quoted as a common term which is also known as small interactions with acquaintances or even strangers. All right. So this particular, tool of talking to strangers and acquaintances is just as important as emotionally being tied to close relationships. I find this fascinating. You always think that you need to have like those really deep connections with people to, have the benefits to slow down the aging process. Not in this case. Okay. So, in fact, these, what they call also micro connections, really small connections, help increase our sense of belonging, reduce loneliness, and they boost our mood. All right. So, this altogether is a recipe to slow down the aging process. But getting back to the aging process of micro connections. So, why? Because chronic loneliness and stress really accelerates you at a cellular level, okay? And if you've been listening to any of our other episodes, you know the number one episode I have, an episode on the centurions, and that is the one of the five pillars of slowing down the aging process is having those social interactions. Okay. So when we say loneliness really ages you, so we're talking shorter telomeres. And if you've listened to any of our other episodes, you know that the shorter telomeres really significantly speed up the aging process because once those start to shrivel up, these are the ends of your DNA. Think of the shoelaces that really cap off from your shoelaces from shriveling. That's the same idea here. Those telomeres are getting shorter. We want longer telomeres. Longer telomeres is a good sign of health. And what else happens is more inflammation in the body. And you know what happens with more inflammation in the body? More susceptibility to disease. All right. And of course, the big C word, cortisol. We get higher cortisol when we are lonely. And so, a simple micro connection, a simple friendly interaction can trigger my favorite feel good chemicals. All right. And that is oxytocin and dopamine. All right. So when you interact with somebody, those two feel good chemicals are starting to move through your body. All right. And so these also happen to fight inflammation, improve immunity, and keep your brain thriving. So that little conversation with, let's say you go to a Starbucks or a local coffee shop, or maybe you're complimenting another female at the gym. You have such cute shorts. Love your hair. That's not just being friendly. It's actually helping you, both of you, right? The other person, the person that's getting that compliment really feels good. All right. And you in turn are feeling good because you are connecting with somebody. So it's a win-win situation. So let's go a little bit deeper with the science. A 2023 study from the University of Chicago found that people who engage in at least one, you guys, just one spontaneous social interaction a day reported a 25% improvement in their mood. So that good feeling can have a cascading effect across your whole day. Better sleep also comes with this improved cognition function and even lower blood pressure over time. So, just taking a pause here for a second. How do you feel, number one, when you talk to a stranger? All right. And I think there's a lot of things here that, that are not said in between the lines. Like, sometimes you can feel a vibe with somebody and feel like it's a great opportunity. Sometimes you can see somebody super closed off. Now, there's also that risk you want to take. Like maybe you do see somebody that looks maybe sad and you take that risk. Like maybe I can change their day. So I think you should just, I know what I do is how I'm feeling that day. And sometimes when I'm feeling low, I know that if I flip the switch, and the one thing that I've been learning to do is whenever you're feeling something, like inadequate of something, let's say you're feeling lonely, right? The best thing to do is to make somebody else not lonely, right? So call up a friend on a phone, reach out, be the one to actually take the action, all right? Not, really ruminating in, oh my God, I'm so lonely. I don't have any friends. Like, I just feel so isolated. So, the number one thing you can do is to make somebody else not lonely.
And now for a commercial break. Sitting for hours at my corporate job really wrecked my posture and left me with constant lower back pain. I didn't understand it. I was in my mid-30s. Was this a life sentence? I just felt so stuck. I didn't know what to do. Until I discovered mat-based Pilates. The movement, the core work, it really transformed my body and most importantly, relieved my lower back pain. And that's why I became a certified instructor, to help others break free from that same cycle. So if you're struggling with lower back pain, I get it, but it's not a life sentence. Join me for your first free mat-based Pilates class from your very own home on Zoom. This is a workout designed to restore your balance and strength. And again, your first class is free. They're live every Monday and Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The link is in the show notes. We'll see you there. And now back to our show.
So another study, let's go back to the science here. Another study found that people over 50 who maintain both strong and weak social connections were less likely to develop dementia. Okay? Talked about dementia before. Dementia is a horrible disease, and loneliness is a huge contributor of it. Guys, here's some pitter patter. Those are my pugs coming in. All right, speaking of loneliness, you can also get a dog. You can also get a pug. Huge fan of pugs. So, here's the kicker. The more variety in your interactions, the younger your emotional age, right? It's not about the age, how old are you? It's what's inside, right? Emotionally, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'm in my 20s some days. A lot of vitamins, good health habits help with that, of course. But This is one of those health habits is making sure you are staying connected. As we know here on the Laughing My Age Off podcast, emotional age often drives your physical age. So, in a nutshell, how you feel really shapes how you live. What are some cognitive and emotional benefits to micro connections? There is enhanced cognitive function in older adults. So, a longitudinal study involving over 5,000 older Chinese adults found that frequent interactions with acquaintances were associated with improved mental status scores over a 4 year period. All right. And I can definitely link this study in our show notes here. These weak ties, again, that means microconnections, appear to help prevent cognitive decline, highlighting the importance of maintaining mental acuity as we age. All right. It also boosts happiness and a sense of belonging. Research indicates from the Washington Post that individuals who engage more frequently with weak ties, like baristas or fellow commuters, right? If you're taking the train, you're taking a bus, even. I know downtown a lot of people do that still. They report higher levels of happiness and a stronger sense of belonging. Notably, these benefits were observed among introverts, suggesting that the positive effects of casual interactions are widespread. Now, let's talk about the physical health benefits, right? So, a Finnish study, yes, a Finnish in Finland, they were tracking over 28,000 participants over 16 years. And they revealed that individuals with a greater number of weak social ties had a lower risk of mortality. Even those with fewer close relationships but a higher number of weak ties experience protective health benefits, which emphasizes the role of social diversity in longevity. What does that all that mean, right? So making diverse connections really helps with these benefits of slowing down the aging process. And they also found that people were more susceptible to having more physical activity. So, the research of the University of Texas at Austin found that older adults who interacted with a diverse range of social contexts throughout the day were more physically active and less sedentary. So, that really makes sense to me. Let me just put the dog down. Also, these lights, we've got these lights on, they're super hot. But I can see that when you are interacting more, you're likely going to be doing something. You're not going to be just sitting on your chair watching TV. You've actually got to go out and do something. So, I actually taught a water aerobics class. I've been trying to experiment. I've been putting myself out there as well, even though I'm really passionate about hot Pilates. I'm expanding here in Florida to see if I can, meet and connect with other people that need physical exercise. And water aerobics is really popular in Florida, of course. And I was really surprised. I taught a group of like 10 women. They're over the age of 65, 60 maybe, but definitely older than me. And it was at a country club, okay? And it was a great time. We played a little pit bull, a little fireball, and I just, first of all, I love to teach. So it was going to be fun for me no matter what, but I had no idea what type of audience I was going to have. And after the class, the lady's like, "Oh, we're going to go to, weight training next." And I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool." So they really just start to bounce around to all these classes. And so I think that's going to be me. I think when I'm retired, I'm just going to go from workout class to workout class. Some of them are going to be high intensity, some of them are going to be a little bit more low impact, right? Like the swimming aerobics. And they were all chit-chatting. There were parts where I was just like, "Let's go, ladies." Swing those noodles. And, I could see that. You're going to have exercise, you're going to have community. So that's just something to keep in mind that, when you're social, usually you're going to get a lot more physical exercise. And that's another pillar of, longevity. All right. So for this short episode, there is something tactical I want you to get from this. All right. I'm giving you a happy assignment. Yes, we're calling it the happy assignment because it's going to make you happy to do this. And also be comfortable with the uncomfortable, especially if you are an introvert. It takes a little bit extra to put yourself out there, But I think one of the best things to do if you're an introvert listening to this, usually introverts despise speaking to people, usually trying to hide, any type of social interaction with people. Whereas, extroverted people, I find myself in the middle, sometimes more extroverted than others, other times. But, you know, what I find that helps is if you can give somebody else a compliment because it's taking off the attention off of you, right? And so the person actually gets more of the attention, but you're still getting that microdose, right? Maybe see somebody at the coffee shop and genuinely there's probably a compliment there anyway. You like their shoes, where'd you get them? Or, one that I always use lately is, because I was searching for a good pair of walking shoes because I do walk, a lot with my dogs. And I'm such a commitment phobe when it comes to shoes. I don't want a gazillion pairs of shoes because I don't want the clutter, because that's another episode we need to have about clutter. And so I want to make sure I can, number one, try them on, not buy them online. And two, they really, really have to be, number one, a high arch and, of course, comfortable. Okay. And so everybody has different definitions of comfortable. I mean, I have a high standard of comfort. Okay. But I would always ask, I go, how are those shoes? Like those Hoka shoes. They look really comfortable. They look pretty decent, but, and I still don't have a pair. I actually got a pair of Skechers. Yes. And Skechers, if you're listening, put different age groups for your sneakers. I saw the one with Martha Stewart. I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, we're wearing Martha Stewart shoes, but they're the slip-on shoes. They're so comfortable. And of course, with the dogs, I'm more hands-free. I slip them on, so those are a win-win for me. And the layer of thickness on the shoe, hands down. So if you're looking for a new pair, but my point is, I started asking people when I'd be in line, I'd see a pair of shoes. I'd be like, oh, those look so comfortable. How are they? Those are really practical ones, and especially if you're looking for something like that, or maybe you're in the coffee line and, thinking back to when Starbucks first started, you're just like, you didn't know what to order. Now, Starbucks does come with like new flavors or just local coffee shops too. Like, how is that flavor? Do you like it? How sweet is it? I love those types of questions. I actually ask those all the time. And then if you have a pet, I think pets really connect people because it's not too invasive and you're talking about the dog, or maybe you're talking to the dog. That's also micro connection. So I'm a big fan of dogs, as you can see. And if you don't have a dog, maybe you see someone with a dog. You can definitely strike up a conversation with them. So that's what I want to set you up with. Okay, so for your happy assignment this week, I want you to talk to one stranger a day for 5 days. All right? Talk to one stranger a day for 5 days in 1 week. All right, so maybe you skip a day, but make sure it's within the 7 days. Make 5 of them, where you are connecting with somebody. It could be short, it could be long. And, I had, the reason I'm bringing up this topic today is because I had a really great situation where this happened, actually, just this past weekend. And I was thinking, like, you know, I have so many topics for this podcast, but this one really resonated with me because of the way and how it made me feel. I was at the airport, was at a point where I had such a long week. A lot of things happened where I was just ready for a good glass of chilled Pinot Grigio wine. Okay. And I walked to this table. Mind you, I didn't know if there, sometimes in the airport, you don't know what kind of restaurants are going to be there. But I was just like, oh, I just kind of felt that there was going to be one. So I walked all the way down. And, of course, I was going back to Fort Myers. And for some reason, it seems like lately all the gates are like the last one. Okay. And I was in the Minnesota airport and it was at the last gate. It was like F-16 and it was a long way to walk, which is fine. But I get to this table. It's kind of like a diner, right? It's kind of like a diner where it's just like stools. And I see, like, at the corner of my eye, there was a girl sitting there with a chilled glass of wine. And I just remember like salivating for it. I'm just It was just one of those things where it's just like I was ready to sit down and just zone out, okay? And so I just struck up a short conversation with the lady and I was like, "Do you know how to get service here?" And she kind of cracked a laugh because she's like, "You got to be a little assertive here because they're just kind of in their own world." I was like, "Oh, okay, thanks for the heads up." And then she just continued on. She's like, "I think it's that one over there." And I go, "Okay." So I walked up there, told the lady what I wanted, and I sat back down. I go, "Oh gosh, thank you." And she's like, "Well, I really like how you ordered that." She's like, "A double." And I go, "Yes, it was a double kind of week." And so, you know, in the end, we talked for like a whole hour. Our flight was delayed an hour. There were like horrible winds going out in Minnesota for some reason, tornado type winds. And I actually didn't want to even leave. I had such a good time. I felt like she was my new best friend. And, it was just one of those things where your energy is everything. That's another episode in itself. But, I was open to connecting with somebody and not being afraid to talk to somebody. And, the feeling was there. And the fact that she had a glass of wine, I was like, I knew we could be besties. So all the signs were there. So that was one of those situations where, it wasn't somebody with their headphones on and it wasn't somebody that was just like into their own like computer or whatnot. So I just want to let you know that this exercise is a really fun one. And I really would like to hear what type of results you get, good or bad. And that's why the task is to make sure you do it 5 times because out of the 5 times, it would be interesting to see out of the 5 times how many are more positive than neutral. I don't necessarily think there are any negative ones. Anytime you say hi to somebody, the only negative ones that I consider like, meh, is when someone doesn't say anything to you and you say hi. That is like one of my worst pet peeves. Like, at least acknowledge with a smile something. Yeah, so I would love to hear that in our reviews. If you could leave a review or even send me a message on Instagram at Fit Pretty Life, that'd be awesome. And so that is our episode for today. Make sure you stay tuned. We have a joke for you here in just a second. Okay, it's joke time. This is going to be down and dirty really fast. And I have to warn you, if you are driving, make sure you pull over for this joke because you're going to be laughing so hard, you're not going to be able to concentrate on the road. Okay? Okay. Knock, knock. Who's there? Alpaca. Alpaca who? Alpaca the snacks if you bring the wine. That's it for today. Talk to you soon. Bye.